My name is Dr. Annette Trimby, and I'm the President and Vice Chancellor of the University of Winnipeg. Winnipeg is located in the center of North America, in the province of Manitoba, in the country of Canada. We have great faculty at the University of Winnipeg that have been interested in researching climate change for many, many years, and we have a lot of students that are very, very dedicated to sustainability.
We've basically said that sustainable goes beyond environmental sustainability and includes environmental sustainability, but it's not just building green buildings. So the mandate is to build a sustainable university community. And each of those words we have parsed out in some detail. What does sustainable mean? What does university mean? What does community mean?
When we think about sustainability, we think about a lot of different factors. Obligation number one is to make sure that our ecosystems can support all of the other systems that are needed for our economic well-being, for our social cohesion, for culture, all that kind of thing.
Bonjour. Winnipeg as a city, Manitoba as a province will not be sustainable if Indigenous people here are not successful. We're able to make sure that the university is a sustainable part of the community. The university can fulfill its mandate of helping not just to create, the next generation of workers and employees, but the next generation of citizens for this world.
The University of Winnipeg has put itself forward as being a leader in sustainability, not only through the buildings, but through our practices and our principles that, again, have permeated up from faculty and staff to create a sustainability plan, to create a campus that envisions we can do things different.
The Richardson College for the Environment is intended to be a home for collaboration. It's where researchers from a variety of disciplines, a variety of departments, a variety of interests and expertise come together to discuss and work upon and ideally solve some of the important environmental issues of the day.
Hand in hand, our researchers, our students, have been able to engage with policymakers, government, academic boards, all with the same idea at heart. How can we make this world a better place to live in?
Just last year, we exceeded our Kyoto target, and we've done so at a time when we've increased our footprint.
So in 2005, our then president, the rallying cry that he issued to the university was, we want to mirror Canada's commitments under the Kyoto Protocol.
Kyoto, it's really meant to deal with nations and provinces and very large bodies of land, right? When you do it with the university, you're looking at a very small footprint. And the baseline is the footprint that existed in 1990.
We announced our greenhouse gas emission reduction targets at almost exactly at the same time that we embarked on a really major initiative that had us expanding our campus really significantly.
As you expand your footprint, even if you build something more sustainable on the expanded footprint than what existed before, that's still a net contributor to your greenhouse gas emissions.
We wanted to reduce our emissions to 6% below 1990 levels by 2012 and then to 10% below 1990 levels by 2016.
Our goal in the development side is to try to mitigate those impacts as much as possible, limit the energy consumption, improve the energy efficiency of those buildings. That has to be combined with work that's done on the main campus.
We made this emission reduction commitment in 2005. We started building buildings shortly thereafter. So what we see is this process whereby our energy consumption and emissions are slowly going up while we're figuring out how to deal with this sort of dual commitment, this dual challenge.
The impact of all this development has been about a 35% increase in the campus footprint. So when you think about what we've accomplished in terms of meeting the Kyoto requirements, we've met that.
But at the same time, starting, last year, you see the greenhouse gas emissions going down at the same time. So you see the situation where you're growing, the total occupied space is growing, but our emission impact is actually going down.
Kyoto, we've been able to meet it, and there's been very few campuses that have grown at the percentage that we've grown.
And this is basically the problem that we're facing globally. We're still growing as a population, but we're being faced with the reality that we have to reduce in absolute terms pretty much every environmental indicator out there. So we've had to deal with that on a small scale at the university, and the great thing is, at least in the area of emissions reductions, which is the thing we've been really focused on, we've managed to do it.
An old building can be a smart building.
This is a good example where this theater, we did not replace any of the fixtures. We were able just to replace the lamp system with LED technology, and we're only using 10% of the energy that this theater was using. And when you think about it, over the whole year, that's about the annual consumption that 10 Canadian homes would use.
Since a heating and cooling system is so integrated within a building, it's very hard to just gut everything, start over. So we had to take a look at what we had and how could we make it better and more efficient. Back when buildings were designed, they were a comfort first mentality and not so much a conscience on how much energy they're using, because our buildings were built, during a time when fossil fuel was cheap and plentiful. Well, we're in one of the many teaching classrooms in the Richardson College. There's a lot of unique features that allow us to save energy inside of these research and teaching labs. Every fume hood and ventilated laboratory bench on campus is connected to the building automation system in that it has a presence sensor right here that detects if there's someone actually standing in front of the equipment working. We control how much air is coming into the room and going out based on if there's anyone in there. That's indicated by a unique red light, yellow light, and green light system. So it's all these things that allow us to reduce our energy consumption, but also keep everyone safe. So what we have here, these are the two air handlers for the building that are essentially the lungs of the building that provide all the fresh air and the exhaust for the fume hoods to function. We're very fortunate to have this type of pioneering technology here on campus. We're actually able to recover up to 80% of the sensible and latent heat from the fume hoods that would normally be lost to the outside. We have a large energy wheel that turns very slowly between the supply and the exhaust stream. We recover the heat, we monitor it, make sure that there's no cross-contamination, and put the heat back into the building. It's a very smart system. That's one of the many reasons why this building uses about half of what a conventional building would use. It's definitely going to be one of those game changers in the laboratory environments. Well, right now we're in the central steam plant for the university. This is where a lot of the heat is actually produced for all the core campuses and a lot of the bigger areas. All these boilers are in excess of 50 years old. They'd be extremely cost prohibitive to replace. So by doing all of our upgrades, we've actually reduced the load considerably on these boilers. But another thing that I'd like to talk to you about is actually the hybrid heating system that we have deployed on the university campus. This is a big steam kettle. We use it to provide supplementary heat at night when our electrical demand is low because there's nothing running. And by doing that, we're using hydroelectric power, and that reduces our greenhouse gas emissions considerably. The electric component and the natural gas component makes it a hybrid. So they're just two types of fuel working together to produce low pressure steam. One of the benefits of having all our buildings connected is actually being able to see what's going on in every single building, every room on campus in real time. We can see if there's any temperature alarms, and we can even do basic troubleshooting even just through our smartphone, a tablet, or any web accessible device. By having an actual energy management system, we've been able to save so much energy in the last 3 years.
When we talk about sustainable economies, we're not just saying we want an economy that can perpetuate itself. What we're saying is, how do we support an economy that's supporting the other systems that we want to have healthy? The obvious example is, of course, Diversity Foods, which is our food service.
This is Pangea's Kitchen, so this is the big cafeteria. It's adjacent to our commissary kitchen where we do most of the prep. In this cafeteria, we tried to keep it pretty accessible and pretty safe for students, so we're still doing burgers, we're still doing fries. The difference is we're doing them from scratch. We're using grass-fed beef, we're using local organic potatoes, but we're still keeping with comfort food. We have 15,000 people on campus, and we do several thousand meals a day for sure. So our first choice is local organic. If we can't do that, we'll do local. So obviously in the prairies, it's tough to do off-season. In a perfect world, we're not using a lot of off-season products. Like this year, we're processing enough tomatoes to carry us through the winter.
Diversity supports local agriculture. They emphasize buying food from local farmers. They got audited last spring and discovered that 65% of everything they're buying in terms of food comes from within 100 kilometers of the university.
When we started, we were the first. Given the success and awareness that people have, I've known of a lot of campuses that are starting to do it, but from my experience, what I've seen is the majority of them are dabbling in it, and they're doing it at one location rather than all locations, whereas we've committed 100%, which I think has contributed to the success and made it easier. And we've had campuses from all around Canada. We've had some from Japan come and just check us out. But again, we're just pretty focused on what we're doing and not what other people are doing, and I think that's part of our success is we don't really compare ourselves a lot to other campuses. We just put our head down, work hard, and keep trying to improve. One of our mandates is to hire people who are typically hard to employ. So we have a lot of new Canadians, people with language barriers, Aboriginal, people from the downtown core. So diversity kind of encompasses not only our staff, but all of the things we attempt to do every day. We look at not just the obvious sustainability as far as environmental and recycling and composting, where our food comes from, but we also look at economic sustainability.
The long-term plan for diversity would be for it to become an employee-owned enterprise, and there's about 80 employees who work there, that they would become owners of the business as well. So if it is modestly profitable and there's some wealth to be created, it will be shared with all the people that work there.
In the social area, if this neighborhood, if this city, if this province has more Indigenous students, more Indigenous grads, we're all going to be better off. So what the university can do, as a treaty partner in the area of education, as a part of this community, we can make our campus a more welcoming place and hopefully counteract those obstacles that people still face today.
The advantage is we're able to leverage all the richness of the university with the students and, the profs and, bringing the community inside the university. So, what is really important? I think it's a fantastic example of what a university can do.
And together, we're setting a course towards making this a place, a center for Indigenous excellence. When you set that tone, when you include Indigenous people in everything that you do, but you also set aside certain spaces and certain times for Indigenous people to celebrate who they are on their own terms, then what you do is you send a message to people that you belong here, that you matter, that your future is an important part of all of our future together.
A lot of our programs will focus on the culture and the language. And so it's really interesting to create a program that replicates what would happen in a community. And so where kids are coming with their families, they're being supported by elders, they're learning about their culture and they're learning about their language.
And one of the things that's really, really paramount to many Indigenous cultures in this part of the world is the tie to the land and the celebration of Mother Earth. So I feel strongly that if we make sure that Indigenous knowledge is incorporated across all the teaching that we do here, that we bring more Indigenous students onto campus, that we're going to also have that attitude from the culture of respecting Mother Earth, of being more environmentally sustainable, start to permeate everything that we do here.
We also have a powwow club that happens every Tuesday night, and it's an opportunity for a lot of our inner city families and kids to learn how to powwow dance and all the protocols around, powwow dancing. We're also teaching a young group of girls how to hoop dance, and so they're able to learn how to hoop dance, learn the cultural traditions, and really empower themselves. And so it's really important for us to instill that cultural identity with our kids and our families. And that's the part that I really like, about the university and the broadness of sustainability and what that means, when thinking about our next generations.
We help young people learn what they need to be successful in the long term, realize all of the value that comes from having Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous people participate in everything that we do. And once we start being able to do that in a consistent way, in a way that is self-sustaining, then to me that's the real vision of sustainability.
I want this institution to lead by example and to use our voices to really advocate for positive change.
It's so important that we address the climate change issue from the grassroots level, from the educational level, from the policy level, from the government level, and we're touching upon all those bases. So I'm very happy about that.
Students have been a huge part of this process since day one. They're playing an active role in setting the agenda and setting priorities and pushing us to move beyond what we think is possible.
It can be done. We don't just talk about this. We have a laboratory for this. Whether you're thinking about worker co-ops and economic sustainability, or whether you're thinking about environmental sustainability, or whether you're thinking about social sustainability, you can see it in action, and you can look out your window and say, there is a LEED Gold building that has a community charter that assures that, 1/3 of the time that facility is going to be used by people in the community. In terms of inspiring a generation of people to think about this, by being a living laboratory, we really create that opportunity in a different way than just by talking about it.